I'm really pleased to be able to present to you somebody that I think is going to give us a really deep picture into what good leadership looks like. I first met Calvin Allen when Paul Dominski and Matt Norman and I sponsored a research project called How Leaders Grow Today. We put together an advisory committee, and Calvin was invited, and that was the first time I actually got to spend any time with him. And in the conversations, we got into deep conversation about culture in ways that I'd never heard culture described before. And it really occurred to me that culture is sort of it's the earth that we plant the seeds in to help leaders grow. And so since then, Calvin and I have become friends. We've had many philosophical conversations, and we agree on two things that are really, really important in developing leaders and growing strong companies. And that is, the first thing is that in your organization, people actually have to care about each other, both personally and professionally. Not one or the other, but if you're going to have a high-performing organization that develops leaders, we have to actually care about each other personally and professionally. And then the second thing, which may be the most difficult, is that people have to work together consistently to build the plans and solve the most difficult problems together. That kind of dispels the superhero, I'll do all that tough work and tell you what to do mentality. Well, I can tell you that the two conditions, care and concern and working together, are very much alive at Health Partners. And that's why I think Calvin's such a natural person to speak. Between the time that we decided that he would speak and today, he also won the Diversity Leader of the Year award at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal. And so now he's a celebrity. But I'm most proud to say that Calvin's a great dad. He's a good husband. He's a really good friend. And he's one of these rare combinations of a person that gives off this Ivy League-like competence with just this really humble simplicity. I'm sure you're going to learn about yourself and about leadership by listening to Calvin Allen. Please welcome Calvin Allen.
Thanks, man. All right, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. I sort of feel like you said all the things I'm going to say, and so I've only got 18 minutes, plus or minus, but I will be sensitive to that. So let me start by saying, I take off my watch whenever I speak to large groups, and I do that because I am the son of a Baptist preacher. And so growing up as a kid, whenever my dad got up to preach, he would always take his watch off. And my theory was he was doing that so that he could pay attention to how much time he's been up to preach. Now that I am doing it, I realize it's his way of avoiding paying attention to how long he's going. But Steve is going to give me the high sign at about 5 minutes to make sure I'm not going too long. My brother is here, and I'm really excited that he is here. He coincidentally was in town yesterday, and I told him that I was speaking, and he was scheduled to leave this morning. And he said, you know what, I'll stay an extra day so that I can come see you speak. So Kenny, I appreciate you being here. So let me tell you what I want to talk about. There are three things that I'd like to walk through. One, I want to tell you a little bit about me, about who I am, how I define myself, just to get you a little grounded. Then I want to spend some time talking about how I try to demonstrate good leadership. As Paul said, it is so much about connecting with folks, working in teams, and doing it in an effective way where people feel valued and appreciated. And then finally, I want to end with a challenge and a call to action. The intent was, when I wrote it, it was a call to action to you. As I read it, it really might just be a call to action to me. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. So who I am. I am a kid who grew up in Philadelphia. Philly is home. I told you my father is a Baptist minister. He has been pastoring the same church in Philadelphia about 40 years. I have come to the conclusion, he's been talking about retirement the last 3 to 5 years. I've come to the conclusion he's going to die as the pastor of that church. It just is. That's not a bad thing, but that's his passion. That's just what he's going to do. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but she was the one who taught me my work ethic. She was the one that when I turned 15 said, you need to get a job. And literally sat me down, made me create a resume, and drove me around to every fast food restaurant in our neighborhood. And I remember I got my first job at Popeye's Fried Chicken. I went in to get the application. I did the application. She made me type it up. I attached the resume of a 15-year-old to that application. And I remember taking it in and the manager saying, son, there's too much stuff here. And he flipped through it and he went, wow, you're hired. I mean, it really was. He was impressed that I had a resume at the age of 15. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, so a bachelor's in accounting. I have a master's in business administration and journal management. Those are just kind of the foundational things, but to Paul's point, I identify with, I am the father of Joshua Allen and Noelle Allen. My 2 kids are the center of who I am. I am the husband of Melanie Allen. My family is important to me. I'm the youngest of 4. You met my brother Kenneth. And then I am the head of strategic planning and human resources for Health Partners. And since I'm the HR guy, I got to tell you about Health Partners because we're always looking for good people. So those of you who don't know, we are an integrated healthcare system. And by integrated, I mean we've got care delivery and we've got health plan. Is there anybody from Blue Cross here? All right. Anybody from Medica here? Oh, there's a Medica person. I was about to say we are the largest health plan in the state. We're the 3rd largest health plan in the state. We've got about 1.5 million members. We are a fully integrated care delivery system. We've got 6 hospitals, 1,700 physicians, 22,000 employees that work for the organization. We've got home care, hospice, primary care, specialty care, so from the beginning to the end. And what I tell people is, if anybody can figure out the ills of healthcare, it ought to be us, because we own all of the pieces to the puzzle. All right, so that's enough of the commercial on Health Partners. So let me talk about how I try to demonstrate good leadership. And so I really like the 7 Fs. I identify with the 7 Fs. But when I think about the 7 Fs, it makes me think about a continuum of work life. And I know Paul has said, you don't like the language work-life balance. And I agree with that. I think on a daily basis, on a situational basis, balance is individual, and it might be out of balance in the way that we think about it traditionally. But I really like the cornerstones of goodness. And so I want to spend some time talking about that. For me, these cornerstones of goodness, they are actionable. They made me reflect on culture and how I set the tone both at home and at work. And Paul told you how much energy I have around culture. And, you know, a lot of people say strategic planning and human resources, how do they go together? Well, where they overlap is culture. And so I get to deal with that every day and really enjoy it. So let's run through these pretty quickly. So the first one around rewarding excellence. To me, rewarding excellence is about setting the bar. How high do you set the bar? How attainable are the goals? And how do you as a leader support folks in reaching those goals. The second thing that it's about is saying thank you. And I don't think you can say thank you enough. I actually have never heard a colleague say, Calvin, you thank me too much. You're over the top. Don't worry about it. You know, my wife has never said to me, boy, you show so much appreciation to me at home. Right? So you can never say thank you enough. Now, the lesson to me in rewarding excellence, the example that I would give you is about our 11-year-old son. Joshua is one of those kids who, wherever you set the bar, he will meet it. So if the bar is at 80%, he's going to come in at 80, maybe 81. If it's at 90, he's going to come in at 90. But we learned early on, we've got to set the bar for him really high and challenge him, and he'll meet those expectations. And then we got to say, great job. And here is why it's important to hit these goals. All right? Living generously. Paul literally said what I was going to say on living generously. I'm blessed. We are blessed. It is not typical, and we should never forget, it is not typical for 265, 270 people to be hanging out at the Golden Valley Country Club on a Friday morning. There are a bunch of people who don't have the flexibility that we have. And because of that, I believe we are called to give back. It is our duty, it's our obligation, and it doesn't make a difference how you do it, where you do it. Habitat for Humanity, engagement with United Way. My wife is engaged with the YWCA. But leaders aren't successful alone. This issue of living generously is tied to that. Finally, the last thing that I would say about this is I would encourage you to look for opportunities to be grateful. We practice this in my family, and I try to do this every day. There is research that says if at the end of every night you reflect on 2 or 3 things that you are grateful for, it will change your outlook on life. And so I'm grateful that my brother is in town and that he stayed an extra day. I'm also grateful that I think I'm going to have salmon for dinner tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. So it's about perspective. Promoting fairness. For me, promoting fairness is around being accessible, being transparent, and being humble. It's about acknowledging that my success is inextricably tied to yours. We are in this together. As I was doing some research, I came across a quote from Martin Luther King that he wrote in the letter from the Birmingham jail. And it says, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So those of you who read the email that Paul sent out about me, I think it mentioned in there that when we sit down for dinner, we go around the table and I say to my kids, who did you help today? And it's an important question because I want my kids to know we're blessed and we've got an obligation. We owe it to connect, to support, to help out. As I think about this quote from Martin Luther King, I always go, if he were alive today, and you think about the power of technology, right? He was talking about Atlanta to Birmingham. Today we've got Facebook LinkedIn, Twitter, right? The news cycle is 24 hours all the time. How would he be thinking about this issue of promoting fairness? And then finally, spreading positivity. I have a colleague at Health Partners whose husband was known to say there are two types of people, pumps and drains. And which one are you going to be, right? Are you going to be a pump or are you going to be a drain? One of the things I told Paul is, you know what? Life is too short to be around drains. You have too much stuff going on to be in a job, and I say this at Health Partners, you have too much stuff going on in your life to be in a job that you hate. It's okay to wake up one morning and go, oh, I don't want to go to work, I'm tired. That's cool. When you do that every day, there's a problem, right? At Health Partners, we put fun in the strategic plan. And I'm the strategic planning guy, so I'm the one who wrote it in there. But our senior leadership team agreed with it because there is a huge impact on creating culture and creating the connection. My wife and I do an annual event. She actually throws it for me. How am I doing on time?
Take all the time you need.
I asked the right guy. That's great. Thanks, Steve. For those of you in the back who didn't hear him, he said, take all the time you need. My wife throws me an event every year, and it's called the Calvin U. Allen Father's Day Big Piece of Chicken Golf Tournament. And we call it the Big Piece of Chicken because we were watching Chris Rock probably 12, 13 years ago, and he had a bit that he talks about, he was talking about mothers and how mothers get so much credit, so much acknowledgement, that fathers work with their kids to play sports, to play football, to play basketball and all that type of thing, and they get to college or they get to the pros and they make a big play and the camera is on them, and the first thing they do is say, thanks, Mom. And that fathers are always saying to their kids, tell your mama how good she looks. Tell your mama how good the food is. Tell your mama how clean the house is. So it's always about the mother, always about the mother. And he said, fathers get no credit. They get no acknowledgement. Except when daddy came home, mama always saved him the big piece of chicken. And so we created the Big Piece of Chicken Golf Tournament. And it's always the Saturday before Father's Day, and it's for our close friends. But it's our way to have fun. It's our way to connect. It's our way to promote positivity. All right, so let me close with two things. The last thing I'm going to say about promoting positivity is I think it's all about attitude. And those of you who have heard me speak or talk before, you have heard that message. I carry in my pocket, and it's really tattered, but I'm going to try to read it to you, a poem by a guy by the name of Charles Swindoll. And it's called Attitude. And it says, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than the past, than education, than successes, than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a team, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. So if you choose to bring fun and positivity to work, to home, you can do that, but it's your choice. Every day, we get to choose. And then finally, here's the challenge and the call to action. thank you, Paul, for allowing me to do this. Because it forced me to do some self-reflection as I prepared. And there are 3 questions that I'd leave you with. One is, what do we as leaders need to do to make our teams feel more valued, appreciated, and energized? That's our role. That's our challenge as leaders. Now, corollary to that is, what do we need to stop doing? Right? Because sometimes we're creating artificial barriers. The more challenging question is asking that about home. What is it that we need to do to energize our families so that our spouses, our significant others, feel valued and appreciated? And I know I've got work to do. So that's why I said this was good self-reflection for me. Because the Sunday before Labor Day, my wife leans over to me and she said, "Are you going to work tomorrow?" And I said, "No, dear, it's Labor Day. It's a holiday. I don't go to work on holidays." And she said, "Yes, you do." And I said, No, I don't." She goes, "Yes, you don't go to work on Christmas and Thanksgiving, but other holidays you go to work." And I'm positive that I don't go to work on holidays. But the message that I took away was, I'm not present. I am not connecting with her and connecting with my kids. I'm on that damn phone, checking emails, and that type of thing. So the challenge is, how do we connect better with our families so that they feel valued, appreciated, and energized? And I'm committed to making an improvement. I hope you guys will join me.
Thank you very much. While this is not Calvin Allen's family dinner table, the question for discussion is obvious. If it's good enough for the conversation he has with his kids, it's good enough for us. So the discussion question for the next 10 minutes is, who did you help today? Right? Let's say, who did you help this week? That's a really good conversation. Who did you help this week and why, and how did you grow because of it? Ready, set, go. So it seems obvious that I should ask Calvin, what did you learn from that first job that your mom marched you in to help get you?
Oh boy, the first job I was a cashier at Popeyes. In fact, I still know the language. It's, "Hi, welcome to Popeyes. Will you be dining in or out?" I could do a commercial for him. Frankly, it taught me a lot about service.
Yeah?
It taught me a lot about connection. It taught me about the importance of counting, since I was the cashier.
Yeah.
Which I was a numbers guy. I loved numbers and ended up getting my degree in accounting.
So
and now I'm the HR guy.
Yeah, now you are the HR guy. Yeah, that's right. So I'm just dying to know, what was on the resume?
I have no idea. I'm sure it was some volunteer stuff related to the church or something like that. And I was very active in high school, volunteered was the vice president of the class in high school and that type of thing. And I should have mentioned, my brother is also a Baptist minister. So it kind of goes in the family, but it stopped at me. So
Yeah, the resume probably said son of a Baptist
son
minister.
of a Baptist minister.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you told us about the Big Chicken golf tournament.
Yes.
That big piece of chicken. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's only one day a year, though. What do you do for fun?
Boy, I'm a simple guy. Fun is about family for me. It's about family and friends. Colbert Boyd, I saw him a minute ago, is a really, really good family friend. We've got an inner circle that we get together with probably every other weekend. I think this is probably true. Everybody in the inner circle has kids right around the same age. So that creates the support system for the kids. So I enjoy golfing, and you golfed, I played with you. So I enjoy getting out to golf, and actually both of my kids are really into golf. The oldest one is pretty darn good. So that's always fun, and going to their soccer matches and football game. There's a football game tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, good, good. Well, thanks. You, as a son of a Baptist minister, your brother, the same, can you tell us, where's your faith alive in your work?
Yeah, you know, that's a tough question. I can't carve it out and say, boom, here it is. It's just in how I carry myself. It's in how I interact with people. It's in treating people with respect, treating people the way you'd want to be treated, and so the golden rule. And so it's easy to do that at Health Partners because our culture is one that believes in involvement, engagement, connection, listening. So it's easy for my faith to show up there in a way that it's not pushed on others. Other organizations, it might be much more of a challenge.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of our writing and discussions, we refer to fear as the 8th F.
Yeah.
So can you help us understand where fear has played a role in your development?
Yeah, probably a bunch of different ways. You know, the fear of failure is a big deal for me. I told you earlier I'm blessed and have been really successful. Work at a great organization with a really awesome leadership team that is a good fit for me, and I want to do well. I'm not driven by financial goals, but I am driven by I want to be comfortable. I want my family to be comfortable. And so from a job and career perspective, that's a motivator for me to make sure that we are positioned well. I also think that fear is okay. And I think that, but I think it's important to acknowledge fear. Because when you don't acknowledge it, then I think it gets to own you as opposed to you owning it and knowing what reality is. So if you acknowledge fear, then you get to manage it.
Well said. Thank you. So you're a young man. You've got a lot ahead of you. Who does Calvin Allen want to be when he grows up?
I think I'm good with who Calvin Allen is today. I mean, we had conversations early on where you said, what's the future look like? And I said, I have no idea, and I really don't. Life is good right now, and I'd be really cool with more of the same. As long as I can have a strong family, strong support system around me, the job thing is not all that critical, the title thing is not all that critical to me, but I want to be in an environment where I feel valued, appreciated, and supported. If that were to change, then I would make a change.
Thank you so much for being here. Please say thanks to Calvin Allen.